Hey, what's up, fantasy football fans? This is Mitchell with FF Real Talk, and we're heading into week 11. This year is going really fast in terms of fantasy goings on, the output, and all of this and all of that. And the season's getting to that point where we know who's going to be, and I'm talking about real football. We know who's going to be the contenders for the most part, and you now know in your fantasy leagues who's going to be the contenders for the playoffs and the championship. Some people are on the bubble. If you got like a record of 5-5 or 6-3, you can make it, you may not make it. It's some teams that's going to fall back in the next few weeks, some teams that are going to move forward. But this is that point to where if you're 6-3 and better, you need to start thinking about making roster moves and fortifying your team for the playoffs. So one way to do that is by dropping certain unnecessary running backs and wide receivers and maintaining or grabbing, if you don't already have them, your main handcuffs for your number one running back. For example, what I mean by unnecessary are players that you've added as horde ads, like you heard one of my videos or somebody else's where they said pick this guy, but you haven't used them or you don't necessarily see him being of any defined benefit to you. I would cut that guy and add the handcuff of my main running back. For example, if you're 6-3 and you own Arian Foster, you need to have Alfred Blue somewhere on your lineup. That would mean if you've got to cut somebody like an Anthony Dixon or a Brandon Oliver or somebody that you have that don't have much feasible value going forward, even somebody like Andre Williams, whose value is questionable going forward. I'd rather have the handcuff to my stud than to have that guy. For example, like Jamal Charles. If Nile Davis is on your waiver and you own him, you need to be getting him somehow. You need to have the handcuff in case something goes wrong heading into your playoffs. And also another reason to drop a team that's not doing so, not a team, but a player that you're not going to be using, like I said, an example player of, say, Anthony Dixon. Add a second defense, and I'm usually not a proponent of carrying any more than one defense, but at this time of year, start scouring the waiver wire and looking at defenses who have really good schedules. I might do a video where because I haven't really looked at them as good as I should either, I might do a video and do just a few minutes of saying which defenses that may be on the waiver wire that you can pick up to add as a second D. But what I mean is, if I don't do it, this is what I want you to do. Go out there and look on the waiver and look at some defenses that may be available. Look at week 14 through 17. Check out their matchups. If they have matchups that are favorable for them to get points, even if they don't for the next few weeks, add them to be able to have a good defense for the fantasy playoffs, even if you don't use them next week or the week after, whatever have you. So if you got somebody who's even on bye this week and you go in and you add that defense knowing that their 14 through 17 is going to be good, that gives you a better benefit come playoff time. Also, one thing to keep in mind too for fortifying your team, because that's what this whole thing is about right here. Next Wednesday, not this Wednesday, not tomorrow, next Wednesday, November 19th, in ESPN leagues, standard leagues, trade deadline. Now's the time that if you got somebody you're trying to get rid of, or if you got a player that you know is of value, but you say you've got a really good running back, somebody else has a really good receiver, and y'all have opposite problems, and y'all want to make a switch out of the two so you can get a better receiver, he can get a better running back or whatever have you, and y'all make a deal. Now's the time to do that, because after next week, whatever team you have, there won't be any transactions you can do other than waiver drops and ads. No, it won't be any trading. So if you got some inclinations to make some trades or some necessary need to do it, now's the time to do it. But when you trade, try to trade with teams that are 5-5 and 6-3 that have hope of getting into the playoffs and maybe they won't. That's what you want to do. Don't trade with the guy that's 8-1, 8-2 or 9-1 and make that team that much better. Try to trade with a middling team, someone who would be interested in trading, but not the best team. You don't want to make them better by making a transaction. That's the way I see it. So there's just a few tidbits to add to anything. Also, another thing that you might want to target moving is if you've got two stud quarterbacks. Like, I was in a couple drafts this year where somebody had, say, Aaron Rodgers and Andrew Luck. Now's the time to part with one of them. I know people hold on for things for injuries, but injuries can happen anywhere and wherever. There's no real handcuff to quarterback type situation. It's just a second stringer. But if you got two stud quarterbacks, now's the time to fortify and get a better player that you need running back or wide receiver wise. I mean, because you can't play both when it comes fantasy time. And actually having two stud quarterbacks creates a weekly problem where you got to wonder who to play. If you got Andrew Luck and Aaron Rodgers, have one of them, play him every week and get a stud running back or receiver back for him. Now's the time to do it. Okay, we're going to get right into the waiver ads for this week. The number one pickup is Odell Beckham Jr. There's really nothing else I need to say about this guy that I haven't said already. He's got some of the best hands in the league and just unbelievably clear talent, and he's going to be a stud for years to come. There's just no way around it. And for the fact that he's only 57% owned right now is inexcusable. All of y'all who have the opportunity to get him need to get him. And now the percents that are coming out in ESPN are more reflective of how the leagues really are out there. So for the fact that it's 57.5% owned, y'all need to get him. The only gripe that you can even partially say about Odell Beckham right now is the fact that in the games that he's getting big yardage, he's not scoring. And in the games he's getting short yardage, he's scoring. That's not going to last forever. It's going to be a point to where he gets a big yardage game and he scores, and that's just going to make him a monster. So his games could be that much better if he was scoring in any of them. So just wait. This is going to come around. Like I said, right now you are seeing the future of top 5 to 10 receiver or even better from next year going forward, as long as he stays healthy. So he doesn't need to be in any waiver wires, and I don't think he will be after this week. Number two is also a wide receiver that we were touting in the preseason, Jordan Matthews, 24% owned. It's showing clear that Mark Sanchez he has all the confidence that he thought he lost, or we thought he lost rather, in the Jets offense. Somehow the offense with Chip Kelly allows for fair to middling to better quarterbacks to succeed. And he's found his target over the last couple of weeks, and it's shown with Jordan Matthews. And he was all over the place yesterday, this weekend rather, with actually it was yesterday. 7 catches for 138 with 2 touchdowns on 9 targets. He's got 3 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks, and his rapport with Sanchez seems to be perfectly clear. Now's that time where you're getting those last picks of the players who have the potential to help make the differences in your playoffs. And this is a guy like that. It's not, this is the kicker, to why you want to add a guy like Matthews. It's not just all of a sudden, oh, this guy's starting to play good in week 8 or forward. He's coming in to do something new, and he's got a quarterback that's coming in to do something new. So it looks more like something that'll sustain as opposed to, Allen Robinson. Actually, Allen Robinson and Blake Bortles was like that. But some guy coming in and then he's just all of a sudden coming in. The quarterback situation is the same. This is starting to happen at the same time as the quarterback situation is changing. This situation to where Jordan Matthews is eating into some of Macklin's carries. I think this is going to carry over. Sanchez is going to keep going forward, and I think Matthews will ascend with him. So you want to have him. Number 3, Cecil Shorts III, 28% owned. News came out today that Allen Robinson is out for the rest of the season with a stress fracture in his foot. That makes the answer completely clear. it was always on the fence of who would you want to have between Robinson or Cecil Shorts. We all knew Shorts was the most talented. We've known that for a couple years now, but he just can't stay healthy. So we had anointed Robinson the one to have in the Jaguars offense. But in this case, we now know who the clear number one is. It's been made easy for you for the fact that somebody isn't there, and it's come at the perfect time. And Blake Bortles is going to use him, and right in time for the fantasy playoffs. He's going to emerge, and we don't have who's the number one to even contend with. This week he got 5 catches, 119 yards on 7 targets. Only thing we have to worry about is something we've always had to worry about with Shorts is, can he stay healthy? But this will be a good time of a player that you can actually land. A lot of times people put in waiver claims and they can't get them. But it's easy to get a guy like Shorts because this week he's on a bye. And when people are on byes, they don't often grab first that guy because they can't use him this week because it's a reactionary thing, fantasy football. So if you put a claim in for Shorts, you'll probably get him because you won't be able to use him this week. But he's coming at perfect time for the playoffs, and he will help with that. Number 4, Mark Sanchez, 37% owned. I never thought I'd say it like I said last week, but I'm sold. I mean, this offense makes any quarterback that's serviceable look good, and Sanchez, who never was god-awful, is really thriving in this thing, and it looks like it's going to continue. And he's a quarterback that actually wants to throw, and which makes his fantasy stock rise. And this is the kicker with adding him. 3 of his 4 fantasy playoff matchups are plus matchups. His biggest challenge is in week 14, which is the first week of the fantasy playoffs with Seattle. And after that, he's good to go. So you may not want to chance him in the first week of the playoffs, but now's the time to add him to be able to use just in case if you're a Carson Palmer owner, a Nick Foles, obviously a Nick Foles owner, if you're a Andy Dalton owner, even at this point, a Matt Ryan owner, I think I would much rather have Sanchez. His probability and setup for success seems to be clear, and I think it's only going to get better. So, take a chance on him. He'll be a great second quarterback in 2 quarterback leagues, or even a backup in case something goes wrong. But for all people who's missing their guy or needs a better replacement from like a Dalton, pick up Sanchez. Number 5, Michael Rivera, 39% owned. In the last 3 weeks, he's received 28 targets, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, that's wide receiver 1 territory right there. I mean, that's unheard of, and he's a tight end. And the thing about it is, Derek Carr is throwing a ton right now and doesn't have any signs of this thing stopping. He right now would be the highest pickup, but the thing is with wide receivers, they're so hard to come by. That's why those 3 were ahead. But going forward, short of Jimmy Graham, Gronk, Julius Thomas, this guy, Jimmy Graham, Gronk, Julius Thomas, and maybe Antonio Gates, and maybe Dwayne Allen, this is the guy you want to have right here. His pace and the way he's playing right now in a system that wants to be based on throwing because the running game is so bad makes this guy not only a must own but nearly a must start. Pick him up, 40% owned now. He probably will be on across the board after this week. Looks like it's the real deal. Number 6, John Brown, 7.7% owned. With Michael Floyd somehow, and I don't know how, I have no answer for this, being purposely or inadvertently phased out of this offense, it's looking like they're going to have to go to somebody else, and Brown is becoming the beneficiary of it. This week, 5 catches for 73 and a touchdown on 9 targets. Drew Stanton is in the system now. It's not going to be as fast-paced and as clearly successful in my thinking as when Palmer was on, but he's gone. And Drew Stanton was able to hold it down in some decent capacity while he was away. But this is a team that's not going to change their system just because they lost their starting quarterback. This is the best team in the NFC, and they have Super Bowl aspirations. So they're not going to fix something that's not broke. So they're going to keep going with the high pace and pass heavy offense, and Drew Stanton's just going to have to assimilate. And with that, you're going to want the weapons in there. And John Brown looks like he's one of the newer ones that's going to be used, and it's going to be used sort of like in a Brandon Cooks thing, big playability and can be used all over. He doesn't get as much targets as Cooks, but he's definitely an add in case you have some problems at receiver, which most of us all do. Number 7, C.J. Anderson, 3.5% owned. This is pretty simple. Anyone who has Ronnie Hillman needs to have either C.J. Anderson or Monty Ball or both. Because right now, I think Hillman has the keys to the car, but with his injuries that are these ghost injuries that are coming up and taking us by surprise, I don't know how healthy he is. And we never did get the 100% full sense that they have fully committed to Hillman, because they keep letting this Monty Ball has lost weight creep in and all this, and we plan on using him and all this. But C.J. Anderson was the one this week that had the most success. So if you have Hillman, which I have in several leagues, which a lot of you, because he's pretty much across the board on, if you have him, you might want to, it's going to be hard to get both, but I would add right now C.J. Anderson because I don't trust Monty Ball. But add him if you have Hillman, see what fleshes out. If Hillman gets healthy and Anderson gets phased back to where he was, then drop him. But now, who knows? We don't know how healthy Hillman is. CJ might supplant him overall. So we'll see what happens. But if you own Hillman, you might want to add him. Number 8 is who I just mentioned, Monty Ball. Everything, I ain't going to say anything more. Everything I said is above. If you can't get Anderson or whatever, add Monty Ball, see what happens. Number 9, RG3, 32% owned. There's nothing more than I need to add than whatever I said before. Those of y'all with quarterback issues, like say, again, the Carson Palmer people, the Dalton people, even the Matt Ryan people, because of RG3's upside that is unquestionable. His legs and his so much to prove right now makes him a boom or bust player, and when that boom hits though, it's going to be an explosion. And I really have faith in RG3 going forward. I kind of have to because I got him in several leagues, but the thing is, he's got the talent, and this is the time where he needs to prove a lot to a lot of people, and anybody who has him, I think, is going to see the benefits come fantasy playoff time. And he's got a nice favorable playoff schedule sans the Eagles, who he's going to be playing in the fantasy playoffs. So pick him up if he's out there. He should be out there too, and a lot more. Like I said, he's 32% owned, but the reason why he's so lowly owned was because of the bye. So now's the time to pounce on it. And number 10 will be another quarterback to add, Michael Vick, 5% owned. Since he started, there's been no interceptions. He's had 20 rushing attempts, which is the X factor of this whole thing in the last 3 weeks. Though he's on a bye this week, and he has a kind of tough playoff schedule, actually, it's very tough. He's looking sharp out there, and he's a quarterback that we all know his reputation for what he can do. That's the good news, but we also know his reputation for what happens with him. When he's highly susceptible to mistakes, injuries, turnovers, all the above, when facing above average Ds or better. And you would think that's obvious. Any quarterback is susceptible to problems if they're facing bad Ds, but with Michael Vick, it's so much more so. Somehow it just really makes him crumble under the pressure, and he just gets hurt a lot. But again, he's not more hurt than Palmer. If you can't get Mark Sanchez or you can't get RG3, He's looking pretty good out there. You won't be able to use him this week, obviously, and that's another reason why you probably be able to get him if you lose out on him because he's on bye. So now's the time to just, again, this whole video is about fortifying everything. The reason you add CJ Anderson, the reason you add Moneyball is if Hillman was probably your number 2 running back in some cases. You need to fortify these positions. All playoff possible teams, 6-3 or better, it's time to think about the future. You need to continue to win your weeks, especially if you're 8-2, 9-1. There's no coasting going on, but you're pretty much almost in there. But a 6-3 team can still not get in. It depends on your setup, where you are divisionally. 5-5 team still has a chance too. It depends on how you run the table. You know, you can get a nice placement in the playoffs in terms of seeding or whatever. But now's the time to make all the right moves. For the people that stream defenses like me, you need to add a look around and grab defenses that have a good matchups 14 through 17, like I said. And think about the big pictures now. No more streaming and dropping players because of buys or whatever, because the buys are coming to an end after next week. Hold on to your best players and use them to help you win this, to solidify your playoff standing, and have these cornerstones handcuffs that are behind your stud running back, your running back 1 in particular. Have them. That's who you need. So that's going to end this video, and I want to wish y'all luck in week 11. And if you got any questions, as usual, hit me up on Twitter. Anytime I'm available, I'll be willing to answer at FF Real Talk. Follow and subscribe to the channel. Start watching the channel even more. Tell people about the channel. It's getting to the point to where you can start spreading the word now. We all know our rankings, so you can start spreading the word instead of keeping it a secret now. So subscribe to the channel. Leave any comments below. Again, it's better to just talk to me on Twitter at this point. You don't even need to leave comments in the video. Just hit me up on Twitter at FF Real Talk. So until next time, again, good luck, and thanks out there for everybody who's been participating in, learning fantasy more than anything else. And we'll see you next time. Have a good one.